All right, man, peace. So, a new twist was added to the Colin Kaepernick narrative with the Ray Lewis versus Ness Nitty storyline. Let's see what they have to say about it. Of course, I'm going to chime in.
Kaepernick was reportedly close to landing a job with the Ravens when Flacco was hurt last month. The team gave multiple reasons as to why they didn't sign Kaepernick, but according to Ravens legend Ray Lewis, an August 2nd tweet from Kaepernick's girlfriend was a deal breaker. On Showtime's Inside the NFL Tuesday night, Lewis said, quote, his girl goes out and put out this racist gesture and doesn't know we're in the back office about to try to get this guy signed.
Look, let me say this quickly about Ray Lewis. And I did a video series about the debate between him and Shannon Sharp. I thought he easily out-debated Shannon Sharp in their little sit-down conversation. I stated explicitly that I'm not on Ray Lewis's side. I'm on nobody's side in this little storyline, this little narrative, because I pretty much know that it's much ado about nothing. Nothing against Ray Lewis. He's a great former football player, great linebacker. He is not a leader of the people. Quite frankly, he's a simpleton. He's simple-minded. And I firmly believe that he was sent out by Jim Brown to run interference. He was sent out by Jim Brown to try to lure Kaepernick out. He was sent out by Jim Brown to try to get the owner of the Baltimore Ravens to consider signing Kaepernick so that they could bring Kaepernick in and get him to issue a mea culpa to the people so that Jim Brown could take over as the handler for Kaepernick. I'm not sure if Ray Lewis was fully aware of what he was being used for. I doubt it because, like I said, he comes off to me as a simpleton. But that's the reason why Colin Kaepernick's current handler got upset. She jumped in because she may have been able to sniff out what was going on. Or maybe just being a jealous woman, she decided that she was going to put Ray Lewis in his place and inject herself in there so that she can get a little bit of the notoriety that her man, aka her asset, has been getting. Well, let's see how they talk about this issue.
Signed. For more, we send it back to First Take right now.
Will, thank you kindly. Guys, so Ray Lewis says the Ravens would have signed Colin Kaepernick if his girlfriend didn't send that tweet. Max, I'll start with you here. What do you make of Ray's comments?
Before Max says anything, let me say this. Ray Lewis sounds real simple saying something like that. He sounds like a guy who, as they say, is quote-unquote butthurt. He sounds like a guy who was being pawned out and realized that, no pun intended, that his attempts at manipulation got intercepted. I think that Ray Lewis has taken a hit on social media amongst the pro-blackity blacks, and he was trying to publicize this whole situation to try to get back in their good graces. Ray Lewis really needs to just needs to extricate himself from any and all racial conversations because he's really not mentally built for it. When I say he's not mentally built for it, not only does he not have the intellect to really understand race, quote unquote, but he's a little too sensitive when it comes to dealing with these so-called pro-blackity blacks. He's trying to get back in their good favor. And 99% of the pro-blackity black, they just want to sit on the internet all day and call everybody a coon and type up a bunch of dumb shit. So they should be the least of his concerns. But the fact that he's concerned about them shows that he really shouldn't be involved.
Well, let me start by saying, as I said yesterday, I love the NFL. It's not just that I love football, I love the NFL. I think it's a great league. And I take a lot of shots at the NFL. And I think the NFL takes shots out of proportion to how good they are. We seem to nitpick. However, I'm going to do that right now, and I don't know that this is nitpicking. Remember that whole thing, the NFL cares, right? How long has that was that going on with the heartbeat and everything? Let me tell you what the NFL cares about. The NFL cares about their bottom line.
Yes, I've been saying that. They're a business. That's what they're supposed to be caring about. Now, this is why you're not really supposed to mingle and mix these type of serious topics with the business enterprise known as the NFL. This is why when people try to make comparisons between Kaepernick's quote-unquote protests with what J.J. Watt is doing down in Houston, it sounds asinine because it is asinine. A protest is meant to cause division. What J.J. Watt is doing is really mostly, quite frankly, a publicity stunt. J.J. Watt is a fame whore. I'm not going to judge the validity or the sincerity of his enterprise, but he is a fame whore. He has proven himself to be a fame whore numerous times. And most foundations are nothing but Ponzi schemes. Not saying that what he's doing is necessarily a Ponzi scheme, but the disaster business is a big business. I'll leave it at that. All right. The Red Cross is nothing but a collection agency for the disaster business. Okay. One of the major jobs of the Red Cross is actually to spread disease to the people of color, the so-called indigenous people of many of these quote unquote third world countries around the earth. So does it surprise me that J.J. Watt has had a very successful enterprise off of Hurricane Harvey, and he'll probably expand it to Hurricane Irma or what have you? No, it doesn't surprise me at all. J.J. Watt seems to be somebody who has a very, very long-term plan in regards to what he wants to do after the NFL, to market himself as a quote-unquote good guy. And that's the exact reason why you do not compare what he's doing to what Kaepernick is doing. Because what Kaepernick is doing is a protest, allegedly a protest anyway. But even in whether the protest is legitimate or not, the point is to alienate people and to purposefully alienate them. Everybody who disagrees with you, you're trying to alienate. That's the point of a protest. What J.J. Watt is doing is trying to curry favor and to shine a light on himself politically and just generally in the eyes of the American populace at large. He has a long-term plan for himself. All right. This is why you see guys like him and Steph Curry, and you see the same type of guys that come out in these situations to garner attention for themselves in the midst of a quote unquote disaster. Right. I mean, these guys, I'm going to shoot baskets for $200,000 to give to the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund. And every time I get a sack, it's going to be $5,000 to Hurricane Harvey. All this silly shit. All right. These athletes, they know what they're doing. A lot of these guys that you see on TV that are always getting promoted and get involved with disaster relief, they're assets anyway. But let's get back to what Mr. Social Justice liberal white man is saying here.
The NFL cares about money. That's what they're in the business of. If you're wondering whether the team that you love, that you bleed for, really cares about winning, no, they care about making money first, winning second. If you're wondering when you hear the NFL talk about members of the NFL, Goodell and others, talk about the integrity of the game, it's absurd. What are they really worried about? If we're talking, sports is, as we've mentioned on this show oftentimes in the past, a very close to a pure meritocracy.
No, sir. Sports is not a pure meritocracy. What sports is what you already stated it is. It's a big business. So basically, whoever is going to make the owners the most money is who they're going to bring in. They don't bring in the so-called black athlete necessarily because he's the best. They bring him in because him being better than everybody else is going to make them more money because he makes everything more exciting. All right? Because if sports was a meritocracy, then you wouldn't have to have things like the Rooney Rule for coaches. Okay? So sports is really more of a it's really more of a monarchical or really a plutocratic semi-democracy, right? Where you have checks and balances for the rich, where they pretty much check and balance each other and themselves for the sake of making more money. It's certainly not a meritocracy.
It's one of the things that's so interesting about it. It's one of the things that we love about it. And here, what is being admitted by Ray Rice or claimed by Ray Rice, and I think this is credible actually in this case, is that something other than the merits was deciding the outcome of a job, right? There's clearly not about the field of play. That actually hurts the integrity of the game. Your team is supposed to be trying to be as good as possible, but that is not the case here. Now, Colin Kaepernick's girlfriend, she was part of his kind of awakening in terms of his social consciousness, and that's very good.
Yes. People are finally starting to notice what I've been saying for the longest time, which is that this female is the one who is pulling the strings for him In the background, I've been saying that for months. She is his handler. All right. These things are going to become more and more apparent as this storyline nears its conclusion. She started out dealing with his teammate Alden Smith, who also has ties to Luciferianism and mental disorders. She moved on from him to Kaepernick. Right? That was her job, was to infiltrate the 49ers, get from Alden Smith to Kaepernick. You guys are going to come to understand that many of these teams in these professional sports leagues have assets on them. There are certain people who are handlers who know who these assets are, and they know how to access them via their keys, or via their triggers, I should say. They have the keys to their triggers. She clearly had the key to Kaepernick's triggers. There's no doubt in my mind that she is a MK handler. I mean, the chick popped up on MTV talking about how many guys she has sex with and how to go out on dates, and all of a sudden she goes from that to being a VJ on MTV and a DJ on Hot 97, and now she's dating this guy. And she gets involved with him, and all of a sudden he's Huey P. Newton now. The fuck out of here, man.
And obviously, her continuing to tweet and the timing of it hurt him here. Probably been better if she hadn't have done that. I wonder if she could take it back. If she would, I would advise that she should.
No, she wouldn't take it back because, as I've already stated, I think that she peeped that Ray Lewis is a pawn, and Ray Lewis is being used, in my honest opinion. He was sent out by Jim Brown to sniff out what was going on and see if he could lure Colin Kaepernick out of hiding. As has already been stated, Colin Kaepernick has not been receiving Jim Brown's calls. If people remember, when Kaepernick first started the so-called protests, he went to Jim Brown for advice. Now, supposedly, he's no longer accepting Jim Brown's calls. I stated in the previous series on Kaepernick that I believe that Kaepernick does not trust Jim Brown. I believe that Kaepernick thinks that Jim Brown has dual allegiances, and he's right to believe that. Like I said before, look, man, when you get into that realm of race relations and civil rights groups and protesting, all these groups are bought and paid for. They all have different alliances and allegiances where they're being subsidized by this billionaire or that billionaire that you'll never know about until you look it up. Like I said, many of you brothers don't do proper research. You just jump on the bandwagon. A lot of you guys jumped on the Black Lives Matter bandwagon and didn't even know till you went on their website that they don't even give a fuck about you. They don't care about the so-called black man. They're using you to promote the black lesbian as the leader of the so-called black community. And that's under the direction of the billionaire Caucasian Jew, George Soros. All right. So please, brothers, consider the source of everything that you get involved in and everything that you do. All right. But back to Kaepernick. No, Kaepernick is he's just a toy soldier that's been wound up and sent out. Ray Lewis is a pawn of Jim Brown. And it's going to be interesting to see how many of these storylines are brought to their conclusion.
Because I don't know that it helps Kaepernick here, or even the issue for which she, that issues that she supports. Although maybe an argument can be constructed, it did, because it brought even more attention.
How can it be a positive that it brought attention to what? To something that has no resolution, and he still is out of a job. So what could it be a positive in regards to? I cannot stress this enough. The dynamic between the Caucasian elite and the Caucasian masses at large against the so-called blacks, particularly the so-called pro-blacks, is like a dysfunctional relationship. It's like if you live in an apartment and every day you hear the same dysfunctional ass arguments by the same dysfunctional ass couple. And you're like, when are these two motherfuckers going to break up so I can get some damn sleep? You know what I'm saying? This is what I think about when I hear these circular arguments between these fake ass pro-blacks and, the so-called white elite that claim to care about what black people are going through so much. You never hear these pro-black niggas say, we just need to get our own police force. You never hear them say that, not even once. You know why? Because it's all about getting that hug. That's all it's really about. That's why you'll notice most of these big mouth pro-blacks, they're dating or they're with somebody who's not even so-called black. All right. Colin Kaepernick's woman is not black. Shannon Sharp's woman is not black. All right. So what really is the goal that these guys have? Is it really for so-called black empowerment, or is it really to push globalism? Who knows? Or maybe they're being used as an agency to totally demonize the police forces of the United States so that they can bring in a global police force. All right. Sometimes you should be careful what you wish for. The alternative might be even worse than what you currently have. But once again, I don't hear any of these people saying, we need our own police force. We need an all black so-called police force. You know why? That's an indirect admission by the so-called pro-blacks that our people do not have a culture. Because if we had a truly strong culture, like a lot of the pro-blacks like to try to act like we have, the first thing that you want to do is disassociate yourself from anybody that's oppressing you. But right now that we cannot even set up our own framework because our people spend so much time concentrating on how to repair the breach between them and the Caucasian, as opposed to repairing the problems amongst our own people, because our people don't have any faith amongst our own people to solve these problems. They want the Caucasian man to solve all of them. All right. So all this back and forth and these circular conversations is all nothing but a bunch of bullshit.
But so I understand if Ray Rice is there, like, pardon me,
yeah, this guy has a lot of Freudian slips.
If Ray Lewis is there saying, look, we were there and we were about to get it done, and then she tweets this and people are like, who needs the headache? I get that. But to me, that goes at the integrity of the game, which is supposed to be trying to win, not doing anything to minimize your chances, constantly trying to maximize your chances.
No, sir. There's more than enough people to fill Colin Kaepernick's spot. OK, and let's understand something. Even though you want to promote the pretext of sports being a meritocracy, I already stated that it's not. It's really just a plutocratic semi-democracy with a series of checks and balances from the NFL Players Association to Roger Goodell. It's pretty much set up to look like there are checks and balances so that everybody feels like they're getting a fair shake. But nothing in life is a pure meritocracy. Nowhere in life do you go where you're just given an appointment or a position just because you're better than everybody else. There's normally an ulterior motive. And, that's part of having a business. Certain things are more sellable or marketable than others. It's the same way in real life. You might be dating you might be so-called dating a beautiful woman. You might see certain characteristics in her that make her not as appealing. So you let her go. Your friends might say, damn, she was fine as hell. Why you let her go? Because there's certain things that I saw that you didn't see. Just because a woman is fine don't mean that she deserves to be my woman. She may have to go. Just because Colin Kaepernick has a better resume than other quarterbacks, when he's bringing a lot of that excess baggage in the form of his female and what they may deem to be a divisive protest, he has to walk on eggshells. I don't understand why people are acting like they don't understand that. And that's part of being the leader of a protest, or at least the figurehead of a protest. You have to take some arrows. You have to be the recipient of slings and arrows. That is a part of it. So let's not act like we don't understand that.
And here we see an example of business interests clearly trumping competitive interests.
It's far simpler for me than that. First of all, as an aside, let me say this. I want to thank folks for making my job a lot easier, because I think I'm going to be on the phones considerably less, since I literally came on First Take, reported exactly what Ray Lewis said, quoted him as saying it to me right in front of you, Max, but SportsCenter is running it like this breaking news. I mean, I reported this a few weeks ago, literally saying I just got off the phone with Ray Lewis an hour ago, and here's what he said, and here's why. But that just got ignored. So you know what? Why bother working the phones? Why even bother? I'm going to save myself some work in the very near future. I'll come on First Take a bit more energized, okay? That's an aside.
Well, shit, I reported that Kaepernick was being puppeted by his woman a couple months ago. Damn, a couple weeks ago. So, I mean, what really are you talking about? Plus, you wasn't on the phone doing no damn reporting. You was on the phone gossiping like you always do, Stephen A. Knock it off. You was on the phone with one of your frat brothers talking shit.
Now back to this issue. Let me be very, very clear. If I was
Stephen A, I want to say one thing about that. I
Go
want to say
ahead.
one thing about that. Sometimes if you don't toot your own horn, there's no music.
Here we go. That is true.
Well, that is true. If you don't believe in yourself, who else is?
It is true in that case. And I usually don't like to do that, but with my reporting, it ticks me off because
You don't like to toot your own horn since when? The hell out of here, man.
it's a lot of work. But that's a different story for another day. Here's the deal. If I was Steve Bisciotti, I wouldn't have signed Ray Lewis either. I want to sit up there and I'm going to do
You
something.
mean Colin Kaepernick?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's not Colin Kaepernick. I meant Colin Kaepernick. I apologize. I would not have signed Colin Kaepernick either.
And neither would I. If you can't control your woman, how the hell you going to control a damn locker room? You're supposed to be the quarterback. The hell out of here. Now you got all these people talking about, well, what about Brent Grimes and Nico Grimes? Well, you know what? If Brent Grimes was playing a position where he had to lead men, he would be the recipient of the same treatment. He plays cornerback. You cannot compare cornerback to quarterback. All right? When you are the quarterback, you are the image of leadership for your team. You cannot even control your damn woman. How the hell you going to control a whole offensive men? Please.
Let me be very, very clear. For once, I'm going to be a black man who puts myself in a white person's shoes.
You mean for once in this segment? You do it every damn day.
I am white.
That's somebody need to make that some type of video meme or something. Just Stephen A saying, I am white.
And I'm a billionaire. And despite the shrapnel of criticism that's been aimed in this player's direction, despite the 1-10 record, completing less than 60% of his passes, being hurt, basically out of the playoff picture for the previous 2 years, not really having an abundance of offers available to him, I'm thinking about signing this guy to my team. I'm thinking about bringing him on board. I reached out to my man Ray Lewis because he was a star for my franchise for many years.
I don't believe that's how it went, Stephen A. I believe that Ray Lewis most likely reached out to Steve Bisciotti. I think it was opposite. And I think he reached out to him because Jim Brown told him to reach out to Steve Bisciotti as a third-party way to get to Kaepernick. I think that Jim Brown got frustrated that Colin Kaepernick would not take his calls, and he sent out his pawn, his simpleton Ray Lewis. Right? If Jim Brown is Megatron, then Ray Lewis is Starscream. He sent his ass out there to go do his his dirty work. Ray Lewis said, "Okay, I'll do it." And he went out there and went to Steve Bisciotti and asked him to give Colin Kaepernick a chance. And just as they was about to do it, Ness Nitty most likely sniffed it out and said, "Oh no, I'm going to be the one pulling the strings, Jim Brown, not you. I know what you're doing." And she sent out that meme. And Ray Lewis got caught in the crossfire, like as most pawns do.
He's going into the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest linebackers in the history of football. And while we're in the office talking about this guy, I see a tweet that comes from his girlfriend.
His handler, you mean?
Depicting me as a slave owner and Ray Lewis as a house slave when this dude was in the back room trying to get the man signed. I'm not signing that, brother. Go kick rocks. You can get the hell up out of here.
I agree with that. You can kick rocks. All right. You bring any type of dysfunction or confusion in my vicinity, your ass can kick rocks. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
I don't give a damn about all that. You gonna go somewhere. You don't have to.
Even though it was his girlfriend and it wasn't
I
him,
don't
it
care.
still
I don't
bothers you
care.
that much?
It's on you. It's on you. It's on.
Of course. See, Molly really wants to say, "Oh, why are you so soft for?" You know how these females are, but she can't say that to Stephen A. because Stephen A. run the show, right? See, females don't like it when they actually have to be held accountable for their actions. Why wouldn't he have to be held accountable for what she's doing? If she's a female, she's not just a regular female. She's a female in a relatively affluent position on a radio show, on a very mainstream radio show on Hot 97. Of course, you don't bring that in.
It's on you. You know why? Because she didn't just issue the tweet. We heard nothing from Colin Kaepernick. We heard nothing that said, wasn't me. We heard nothing that said, I don't vibe with that. I can't control my lady. She's a woman. She's a grown woman. She has the right to do what she want to do, but that's not how I feel. We saw nothing of the kind.
No, sir. A woman does not have the right to do what she wants to do when it's affecting your life. But clearly she has the right to do what she wants to do because she's controlling him. Okay? Her, as well as his Caucasian liberal benefactors and sponsors, are controlling him. He's nothing but a toy soldier. That's all he is. And a lot of these simple-ass pro-blacks that want to run around the internet and act like they Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and Malcolm X, they're going to figure it out late, but they won't admit it because they're going to be too busy typing out the word, seeing how many different fonts they could type the word coon in, and seeing how many black women they can call a set and all this other bullshit. All right? That's all this thing is about. It's just a big narrative. They're about to phase out Kaepernick and bring in Michael Bennett for another storyline. That's all.
We saw nothing but silence, conspicuous silence, which gives me the impression that A, you agree, and B, you would sit up there and be totally cool with her going a step further and doing things like that in the future anytime she disagreed with something.
I agree. I completely agree with Stephen A's sentiment. Number one, I do think that Colin Kaepernick agreed with the meme, and I do agree and believe that he would allow her to do whatever she wants. Because, as I've noted numerous times, quiet is kept. Most of these pro-blacks, particularly the ones that you see on television, they align their pro-black beliefs with being pro-feminist, which means the woman is above me, as well as being pro-LGBTQ and whatever the hell else other letters they adding on to the back of that bullshit. All right, this is the package deal. And this is what a lot of you pro-black dudes out there who don't really understand what's going on around you have to realize. It's not just about the promotion of equal, quote unquote, equal rights for so-called black people. It's also about keeping women above you. And it's also about promoting the so-called lesbian and gay and queer and transgender life choice. All right. That's what it's about. It's a package deal. It's all part of the hermetic philosophies that these people truly adhere to behind closed doors.
Okay? And it's not about a woman. It's not about a man. When you are together, you're as one. And when you do things, it's a reflection on the person that you're with. Because the reason why we know about her is because she's his girlfriend. Just like you look at it.
Bill Clinton. One thing though on that, I think she's a host on Hot 97. She does have her own career, her own name. So she is a public figure as well.
Yeah, she's a public figure, but I wouldn't call her a host. I would take off those last two letters. She's a hoe on Hot 97. She's a hoe with a microphone. That's about it. And when she's done with Kaepernick, she'll leave him behind. Unless she's told by her sponsors that she has to stay with him for the long haul. But we'll see how that goes.
I'm not implying that. I'm saying as it pertains to Colin Kaepernick. I'm not questioning her cachet, her credentials, what she's accomplished. I'm talking about for the purposes of an NFL discussion. Colin Kaepernick is what him taking a knee obviously created a national maelstrom. All I'm saying to you is this. When you take those things into consideration, okay, it's just, listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Bill Clinton was the former president of the United States. When Hillary Clinton was running, you know what he had to do? He had to take a step back. Why? Because she's the one running for president, not you. Colin Kaepernick is the one in the middle of this storm.
That's a great point. That is an excellent point. When Hillary Clinton or Hitler Clinton ran for president, you didn't hear a peep out of Bill because he knew that it wasn't about him. Most of these females, because their addiction to attention is so strong, they really don't know how to play the background, especially if they have their own motives or their own aspirations. Those of you who remember when Barack Obama was in the White House, I believe it was in his first term, Michelle Obama had an interview where she called herself a single mother. This is why I say a lot of these liberal black women, they can't get out of their own way. They're so polluted with the ideologies of this society. Certain things just come out of their mouth without them even thinking because of how much they get inundated with this woman is victim mentality. It's sad and it's pathetic. But Stephen A makes a great point here, and he's doing a good job in this segment. Look, even though I get on Stephen A, he is a boule Negro, but I don't hate Stephen A. I don't dislike Stephen A. I don't hate Shannon Sharp. I don't dislike Shannon Sharp. I look at a lot of these brothers as being pawns. And a lot of them as being really under indirect mind control. A lot of times they just say things and they just don't know any better because they have Luciferian, they have a Luciferian propaganda agenda that is their job to promote. And I just feel sorry for him more than anything else. But, it is what it is.
Anybody that ingratiates themselves into that situation, I mean, you're only going to exacerbate
You're
things.
not wrong about that.
What am I
Stephen
wrong
A.,
about?
you're not wrong about that, but you're incomplete. Does that sound familiar? Here's the problem, okay? What's happening if he's about to be signed and as a result of her comment he is not signed is it proves her point. The point is that the owner can decide a favorable fate for another person on the goodness of his heart, not on the merits, just because, but capriciously, or maybe for a good reason, according to that owner, also turn the thumbs down. That the owner has enormous sway over the fate of another human being and not on the merits. So, by responding in the way that they did and not signing Kaepernick as a result of
You
her
interrupted
point,
me for that.
Thank you, Stephen A. Thank you, Stephen A. This guy is trying so hard to push his socialist bullshit, and it's laughable. First off, there was no need for him to put air quotes around owner. Steve Bisciotti is the owner. He is not a de facto owner. He is the owner. He owns the team. Contractually, he owns the team. So if you want to put air quotes around it because supposedly he is akin to a slave master because he owns a team where the assets are mostly so-called black men, you could do that if you wanted to push that type of an ideology. But the fact is that he does own the team. All right. That is not de facto. Number two, it doesn't prove anything. All it proves is that Ness Nitty is a provocateur. And that is her job, is to provoke. At the end of the day, if she truly believes that Ray Lewis is as a house Negro, she has the right to her opinion. But she also works for a major corporation at Hot 97. And I promise you that her bosses are Caucasian Jews. And she puts out what they want her to put out. Right? I promise you that Colin Kaepernick is getting advised by Caucasian Jew billionaires. Right? Somewhere up the pipeline. They are the ones directing him, just like they're the ones directing the Black Lives Matter movement. So we can all play that slave master game if that's what we want to play. All right? It's just some guys get photographed giving the white man a hug. Other people are doing it behind closed doors. But believe me, those black lesbians that run Black Lives Matter, they are giving hugs to elite Caucasian billionaires. It's just not on camera. I promise you that.
They ironically prove her point.
They don't. They don't. That's just foolish. And here's why. I don't care who you are. In this case, we're talking about a billionaire owner. At ESPN, we're talking about John Skipper. At another network, we're talking about the boss of that network, what have you. People have the right to hire and fire, to not employ somebody if they so choose.
Absolutely. And it is done capriciously. All right. Oftentimes, people are not let go because of their performance. A lot of times, you just let go because they don't like you. That's what it means to be an owner. We can turn it into a race thing if we want to push that agenda. But every person with a ruling class mentality wants to own. OK, so if whether it's a so-called black owner or a so-called Caucasian owner, Michael Jordan is the owner of the Charlotte Hornets. He can fire who he wants. It doesn't make him a so-called slave master. I do not think slave master when I think Caucasian man. As I've already stated in previous videos, the term slave is actually in reference to the Caucasian man. That's where you get the term Slavic from. Those Caucasians, so-called Caucasians from Southeastern Europe, they're called Slavic. You know why? Because they were slaves to the Byzantine Empire, who was ruled over by so-called blacks. All right. So I don't let certain words or terms form a correlation in my mind or any type of association in my mind that the mainstream media would like you to associate. They want you to think that when you think slave, think black, and when you think master, think white. No, sir.
So what let me tell you something. And so would she. If she wait a minute. My voice, Max. Listen, man. Stop making me strain. The point is, if this girl owned her own business, you have the right to hire and fire. That makes you Steve Bisciotti, essentially.
Thank you, sir. That's exactly my point.
Meaning her. If she owned her own business, she would have the right to choose who to employ and who not. That's what Steve Bisciotti is. He's an NFL owner. Colin Kaepernick plays football.
and who owns football teams. This goes to the heart of what Kaepernick and his girlfriend are talking about.
No, it is not. Colin Kaepernick and his girlfriend, allegedly, his alleged girlfriend, truly his handler, are talking about police brutality. They are not talking about the racial composition of ownership in the NFL. So that is a red herring on the part of Max Kellerman. All right. As I've stated, the socialist, liberal Caucasian Jew. His job is to spread disinformation, discord, and be a social provocateur, right? An agent of chaos. That is his job.
Who owns the football teams? 31 rich old white men and one person who does not belong to that group, Khan, who is also not African American. There's 0 African American representatives among the owners. So it's not simply like someone owns a small business.
Then why not put all 31 owners up there? Why would you have to put the owner that is considering bringing your boyfriend on board? You highlighted Steve Bisciotti. So what's the point then?
There is no point, Stephen A. The point is to spread chaos, sir. Is what I've said over and over and over again. The point of the so-called Caucasian liberal is to spread chaos and to get the people under him to spread chaos, right? Behind closed doors, Max Kellerman, even though he claims to be an atheist, he also has associations with Orthodox Judaism, right? Caucasian Orthodox Judaism. That's the household he was raised in. Why do you think that when you look at most of these organizations, they're controlled by so-called Caucasian Jews? Look up who used to run or who's been running the NAACP since its inception. It's been basically all Caucasian Jews. That's how it goes.
About that point, I agree with you. It was ill-timed and perhaps ill-conceived. But by Bisciotti making the decision he did, he's actually buttressing her point.
No,
the point
he's not.
is the power dynamic.
No, he's not.
The power dynamic in the NFL reflects our country's original sin.
No,
and when,
no,
as
you're
a result
taking it
of a
too deep.
statement,
Nonsense.
an owner can arbitrarily choose someone's fate in spite of the merits. It's highlighting her point.
Right. Well, when they decided to suspend you, Max Kellerman, when you admitted and acknowledged that you had engaged in domestic violence with a woman in the aftermath of the Ray Rice situation, and they decided to suspend you, was that fair? Did you come on TV and call the owners of ESPN slave masters because they decided to suspend you after you admitted that, when you felt like you should confess that after the Ray Rice incident and they jumped up and suspended you? Was that a sign of you being a slave, or was that a sign of you being a regular employee who they decided was going against company policy and hurting their monetary bottom line? As Stephen A. stated, he's trying to go too far. He's trying to get too deep. And really, he's just trying to promote trying to promote discordianism. Just trying to promote chaos, as usual with the Caucasian liberal.
No. Part of the merits is your character.
Exactly.
If you're going to sit up there and task.
All right, so now Skip and Shannon, they also had some insight on the Ray Lewis versus Ness Nitty subplot to the Colin Kaepernick narrative. Let's see what they had to say.
Let's start with the latest on Colin Kaepernick. Back in July, there was speculation that the Ravens could sign Kaepernick following Joe Flacco's injury. The Ravens ultimately didn't sign Cap, and Ray Lewis posted a video telling Kaepernick to let his play speak for itself. That prompted Kaepernick's girlfriend, Nessa Diab, to tweet an image showing Lewis hugging Ravens owner Steve Bisciotti next to an image of Samuel L. Jackson's character from Django Unchained.
Now that image is just so disrespectful. You know, stuff like that will get you killed back in the day before the social media era. You know, there was a time if you call a so-called black man or Uncle Tom or all these other names that people like to call him on the internet, you get killed. If you call a black man a Uncle Tom back in the 70s or any of these other derogatory names of another black man, call him that, your life will be in danger. Please keep in mind, this female, Ness Nitty, once again, she is not so-called black. All right? But that just shows you that you black people, you do a very, very poor job of creating the proper border or partition between yourself and these other parties, these other demographics or constituencies who feel like they can use you to promote their own liberal causes. Okay? Why is it that Nitty felt like she could tweet a photo of Ray Lewis hugging the owner after a championship, all right, after they won a championship, and compare it to the Samuel L. Jackson character in Django hugging a slave master? Why did she feel like she could do that? Was it because she's so racially conscious? Or is it because she understands that the liberal black really just wants a hug? Right? And the fact that the so-called pro-black also wants the hug. It's just the only difference is that the liberal black wants to approach the Caucasian for the hug. The pro-black wants the Caucasian to approach them for the hug. That's the only difference. Believe me, they both want the hug, though.
Chained. Lewis spoke about that yesterday. Let's take a listen.
When me and Steve Bisciotti was talking, this is what we're talking about, Judy. We're talking about giving this kid an opportunity to get back in the National Football League. Look, this is what I wanted to share with people. I have been fighting for this kid behind the table like nobody has.
Now, why is Ray Lewis bringing out this information for? He's bringing out this information because he actually cares about what's being said about him by the pro-black mafia on the internet. All right. I made a video a while ago about Michael Vick versus the pro-black mafia. Eventually, he had to acquiesce to the pro-black mafia. He had to issue his mea culpa through his wife on that silly TV show. Ray Lewis thought that he was going to do the same thing. See, Ray Lewis got thrown into a very precarious situation, I believe. I don't have any inside information about this. You know, just trying to glean what normally goes on in these type of situations. I believe he was sent out by Jim Brown to smoke out Colin Kaepernick under the rules that he was going to help Colin Kaepernick get a job. And Ness Nitty, you know, she threw a monkey wrench into it by basically calling Ray Lewis a sellout, or, you know, the white man's nigger. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But Ray Lewis is a simpleton. There's no doubt about that.
Nobody had this kid a job in the National Football League. I can raise my hand and say I did. I've never been against Colin Kaepernick, but I am against the way he done it. Then his girl goes out and puts out this racist gesture and doesn't know.
To be clear, whose girl? Whose lady?
Colin Kaepernick. That she doesn't know. We're in the back office about to try to get this guy to sign. Steve Bisciotti has said himself, how can you crucify Ray Lewis when Ray Lewis is the one calling for Colin Kaepernick?
Yeah, but none of that matters, bro. They're not really trying to get Colin Kaepernick back in the NFL according to the mechanism that you guys want him to come back into the NFL. At the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick is worth just as much being a symbol as he is a quarterback, because he has numerous sponsors right now, many of which you don't know about. Your sponsor, or your Svengali, Jim Brown, he knows what the game is right now. I think that Jim Brown knows that Colin Kaepernick is being puppeted. Jim Brown wants in, and he used you to smoke him out, and you still haven't figured that shit out yet.
Shannon, what are your thoughts?
Nessa's tweet, Colin Kaepernick's significant other.
His handler. She's not no significant other. That's his handler.
Is unacceptable. And this is what I've always tried to relay to people. I was very fortunate. I played 14 years. My brother played 7 in the National Football League. Have a sister, have a mom. And the one thing we've always tried to tell them, talk to them about, is that when you say something, be it negative, especially negative, people will automatically assume you're saying it because you're speaking for he and I. That could be true. May not be true. But when you speak on behalf of a current player in the NFL or any professional sport, and you are a significant other or you are a family member, the masses will assume that's coming from you.
Of course they will. Because most of the time it is. Like when Miko Grimes, Brent Grimes' wife, says a lot of things that she says about, like, you know, for example, when he was with the Miami Dolphins and she would speak about their quarterback, Of course, people assumed that she was saying that because that was the perception of her husband. All right. In the same way, and I made when I made the video about Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev, I noted that I was so impressed by Andre Ward's wife in an interview that she did, where they asked her about some of the nasty things that Sergey Kovalev said about her husband. She said, "I'm not aware of it because I'm not on the internet." That's how a real woman responds. A real woman doesn't respond by trying to go back and forth on the internet because she's just trying to get attention and notoriety for herself. All right? A real woman really is not even on the internet. It's like, it's laughable to me. A lot of these chicks, they come on the internet and they talk about how they married and they love their husband so much, but they got their picture all up in the avatar. Why is that? Who are you trying to advertise for? You understand? The level and the understanding of respect for a husband or a man has been totally decimated in this society. This is why so many, just as an aside, so many of these so-called black men are locked up or dead over the whims of a woman. Because men no longer know how to say, oh, that was just a woman talking. Men actually take what women say seriously, and they're ending up dead and in prison over it. All right? This is just, for you brothers to understand. A real woman is not always all up on the internet. 90% of the time, these bros that's all on the internet, they're doing it for attention. They're doing it to see how many other men will flirt with them, whether it be on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or even YouTube. All right?
Skip, let's go through the timeline here about this Colin Kaepernick and the possible Baltimore Ravens signing. Joe Flacco injures his back on the 27th. On the 28th, Ryan Mallett throws 5 interceptions. Possible couple of more, the defensive players, they drop. Terrell Suggs turns to Marty Morningwig, who's the offensive coordinator. Hey, Marty, have Ryan Mallett throw it to the guys in the white jersey. Okay, boom. Now, on the 29th, that Steve Bisciotti holds a fan forum talking about possible signing Colin Kaepernick, getting the fans feel, I've never heard anything like this before, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, have you ever heard of a football player going on one knee to protest the American flag and how it represents the mistreatment of so-called people of color in America? I mean, different trends will initiate subsequent trends. That's what happens. Once you set precedents, other precedents will be set. At the end of the day, it's amazing to me that people are trying to act like the Colin Kaepernick protest is not supposed to offend anyone. The point of a protest is to offend people. Certain demographics will be offended. Right? I could care less because I know that it's not going to result in anything of note or prominence. But the NFL, their viewing audience is made up primarily of Caucasians who would, affiliate themselves with conservatism. So, of course, you must take a temperature in the room being your fan base. That's not that hard to figure out.
And he concluded, pray for us.
Pray for us, right.
Okay?
Yeah. Of all the things you can pray for, pray for
us.
Us.
Okay?
On the 31st, Ray comes on the show, which is a Monday. On the Tuesday, which is August 1st.
No, wait a second.
Is this a sports debate show, or is this nigga trying to be Shannon Cochran? What's really going on here?
You guys got into it.
Me and Ray had a very heated, passionate discussion.
Yeah, and you lost. You got your ass kicked.
I strenuously disagree with him. But Skip, when people come on this desk and you and I debate, we're not trying to get each other to change their mind. I'm talking to the viewing public at home.
Of course you are, because your mind is totally wrapped up in social media. Right now, you have a lot of these silly, simple-minded, two-dimensional thinking pro-blacks who think that you're some type of revolutionary leader. All right? Shannon, I got love for you, brother, but I see through you like a clear window. There's nothing deep about what you're saying, and you really don't even know what the hell you're saying. You're just emoting.
You have your stance. You're on your ledge. Stay there.
Is there anybody in the world you've been closer to than Ray Lewis?
No, probably not. He's like a little brother to me.
Thank you.
And so I felt that of all the people if I have a disagreement with, I can disagree
This is
with.
a brotherly disagreement, just the way you and
Yes.
I would like to think, have brotherly disagreements.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Skip. We're not going to agree on everything. As a matter of fact, you and I disagree on a lot of things.
And you're mostly wrong.
On Tuesday, remember, he posted the video, Skip. Post, boom, it goes. On Wednesday,
Okay, remember what? Explain what the video was.
the video was basically saying that he's been in Colin Kaepernick's corner.
Okay.
He's been praying for Colin Kaepernick. All he was just trying to do is try to give Colin some avenues of how he should go about doing it.
Yes, that was his first attempt to reach out to Colin at Jim Brown's behest. All right? Jim Brown is the hidden hand behind all this, just in my view. All right? Jim Brown told Ray Lewis, look, why don't you go out there and see if you can reach Colin, see if we can put some control, some damage control behind what he's doing, and try to reel him back in, because this protest is not going anywhere. I'm just speaking as Jim Brown right now. In my view, that's what is going on. Also, Ray Lewis is trying to smother a lot of the backlash that he's getting from the internet revolutionaries.
Okay?
On Wednesday, which is August 1st, Colin's significant other, Nessa, tweets this Django Unchained. I thought it was very inappropriate.
We spoke about it on the air.
Yes, and if I was Ray Lewis, I would have tweeted back, maybe one of these Arab women about to blow themselves up. I say maybe you should be investigated by Homeland Security. All right? You have associations with the San Diego Air Force Base. You have associations with certain quote-unquote terrorist groups based out of Saudi Arabia. All right? You an Arab bitch trying to start some shit that you don't know nothing about. So you want to play games with me? I'm going to play games with you. All right? Just like that.
Totally unacceptable. You see, Skip, if you want someone on your team, you would have signed that person. Mike Brown and the Cincinnati Bengals, they wanted Joe Mixon. They knew what he had done. They signed it.
They drafted him.
The Dallas Cowboys, they wanted Greg Hardy. They signed him as a free agent.
They did.
Dante Stallworth was intoxicated, killed a man. The Patriots signed him. The Ravens signed him. They wanted him. Leonard Little, highly intoxicated, vehicular manslaughter. But the Rams wanted him. See, Skip, if you want somebody, you'll find a reason to sign him. But if you don't, all you need is that one.
Right, but Shannon, sir, if they don't want him, they don't have to mention him. They don't have to mention him, bro, if they don't want him. At the end of the day, Colin Kaepernick and people like you have put Kaepernick in a situation where he is an extremely polarizing figure. All right? You guys talk about him day after day after day after day in affiliation with a movement that is never going to come to the fruition that you want it to come to, which is the hug that you want from the Caucasian elite. It's just not going to happen. And you're not going to get the majority of America, mostly Caucasian, to agree with you that it is okay to protest against their flag in order for you to gain quote-unquote equality, particularly when most of America, especially most of middle America, believes that so-called blacks are so dysfunctional that they're trying to use police brutality as a red herring to avoid the problems that so-called black America has. I'm just telling you how the constituency that you're trying to reach out to views you. I know that most pro-blacks don't like truth, but it is what it is. All right?
And guess what? What he did, Skip, I don't know. I have no reason to not believe that Ray was behind the scenes. There's something that he and I haven't talked about.
Okay, so then why didn't you call him to figure it out? Why didn't you call him to talk about it? Is it that you're scared to call Ray because you don't want Colin to think that you're going behind his back? Is that why you didn't call Ray to investigate what was really going on behind the scenes, Shannon? You got his phone number. You said he's like a little brother to you, right? Why don't you give him a phone call and ask him what's going on? That was supposed to be the first thing that you did after that video came out of him on
Cliches is 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Right.
We have 2 big wrongs here.
Correct.
And one of them is on Ray Lewis.
Yes.
That's just me.
Okay.
But I'm going to show you 2 wrongs make no right here because...
I agree with Skip. Ray Lewis, he got highly sensitive to social media. You cannot do that. You cannot be a leader and be worried about what people like that are saying. All right. Most of the people that you see on Twitter and these different social media networks, most of them are two-dimensional thinkers. It just is what it is.
Because what's not right is Colin Kaepernick is not going to be on an NFL roster on opening day. I'm with you. I'm leaning toward this is the end of the line for Colin Kaepernick.
Well, you saying that it's not right that Colin Kaepernick won't be on an NFL roster on opening day, that's an opining on your part. That's neither right nor wrong. All right? There's a lot that goes into being on any roster, not just an NFL roster. All right? People look at your personality. It's the same way when you go for a job interview. They already know that you're hireable. That's why they called you in for the interview. They looked at your resume. Your resume says that you have the qualifications. Now they want to bring you in to interview you to see what your personality is like. How do you answer questions? So anybody who states that people are brought on board to any job or any vocation based solely on merit, that's just foolishness.
And I think the last stop for Colin Kaepernick, the best shot for Colin Kaepernick, was the Baltimore locker room. I thought it was Seattle, but then it became Baltimore.
Yeah, because Seattle turned him down. They realized they would have had too many powder kegs in the locker room. Who knows? Maybe Pete Carroll and the management at Seattle found out some things about Kaepernick and Michael Bennett and their associations, and they said, you know what? If we have both of those guys here, it's going to be too much.
And it was made to order because Ryan Mallett, as I said before he was drafted, is not very good. And Joe Flacco is going to be iffy for opening day. I guess they're going to try him for opening day. I don't know what's going on. But the point is, they are vulnerable at that position.
Yes,
that locker room clearly, to me, wanted Colin Kaepernick, is strong enough, has a deep enough backbone to accept and assimilate Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
How do you know that? Have you interviewed any of their players? Do you have a temperature for the team, Skip Bayless, or are you just creating that atmosphere so that you can push your point?
And he would have been a perfect fit for the Baltimore Ravens until this happened. And I have cautioned both of you, be careful with Twitter. Don't become a Twitter victim. And we have 2 Twitter victims here.
Well, no, you have 3 because Shannon Sharpe is also a Twitter victim. He's a social media addict. He is literally addicted to the perceptions of the so-called pro-black revolutionaries, the pro-black mafia, as I call them. He comes on TV every day trying to impress them.
Victims here operating. One is Ray Lewis, and I love Ray, not as much as you do because I don't know him as well, but I love him on this show. But I'm going to be a little critical here because I'm going to be honest about what happened. But Ray Lewis was a Twitter victim, and then she was a Twitter victim.
Well, Ray Lewis was a Twitter victim because he's a two-dimensional thinker. Ness Nitty, I would not necessarily call her a Twitter victim. I believe that she's a Twitter puppeteer, a Twitter manipulator for two-dimensional thinkers. All right. As I've already stated, if I was Ray Lewis, especially if a so-called Arab woman was to make a gesture like that, I'm coming right back with the photo of some woman dressed in all black blowing herself up, especially with the fact that Ness Nitty has associations with the San Diego Naval Base and with so-called terrorists based out of Saudi Arabia, allegedly. Oh, please. You know, there's no way in the world I'm tolerating that.
And I have it in my household. I have a wife who would love to be on Twitter, and I tell her, you just can't.
Right.
Yeah, in other words, you tell your wife can't, so you create restrictions for your wife. That's what you're supposed to do. All right? The woman can cause massive confusion if you allow it.
Right. She is so hot-blooded and over-emotional sometimes and so defensive of me. I said, you would wind up on Twitter 18 hours a day trying to defend me, and you would lose every battle because it's an unwinnable battle.
I agree with that. Even with this little YouTube channel that I have, you have to use wisdom and prudence in who you respond to, how you respond, and why. Most of the time when I respond to somebody, it's normally based on them providing a fact, a factoid, a correction. And I appreciate that. That's why I appreciate facts. All these wild opinions I don't really concern myself with. Or sometimes I will respond to a sentiment like a gentleman tried to and I put gentleman in quotes, tried to tell me about the virgin birth on one of these comments, one of these videos that I did. And I tried to tell him, no, the virgin birth is not scriptural, right? He got upset. And I mean, it is what it is. But, knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of our times. All right. That's all I'm concerned with, brothers. I'm not concerned with people's opinions and their wild feelings. I really could care less.
Correct.
So, but, the issue of the virgin birth is another story for another day. I'll be covering that on another video when time permits.
So what happened? I'm going to reconstruct in a little different way than you did. You two got into it on that Monday?
The Monday, August 31st.
And Ray was scheduled to be back on the show the next day. So Ray gets in the car to go back to wherever he's staying in west side of Los Angeles here, and he's in the back seat of the car and decides, because he's been reading Twitter, all of his responses all day, his ats, his mentions, and it got him. It hit the deepest button in Ray Lewis, and he finally said, I got to respond, and I don't want to tweet it. I don't want to type tweet it. I'm going to make a video, and I'm going to post it on Twitter.
Right.
And he's a little off the top of his head, but the first line of the video is, I just left the set at Fox, and whammo, here he goes.
Right.
And he launches in, and it's about a 2-minute sort of a soliloquy.
Yeah.
And he says a lot of things in those 2 minutes. And then he posts it right up on Twitter before he came in the next day. And let's just go through it quickly in order. He went off about how much he prays. He said, your name, Colin, is in my Bible. I pray for you more than you would ever know.
First off, the name Colin is not in the Bible. So that's a lie. If he stated that, that's a lie. But a lot of the black Christian Bible thumpers, they just talk a lot of shit and they have no idea what they're talking about. All right. I have some of these guys, these black Christian Bible thumpers. I have to tell them, this is not a Christian church channel. All right. The Christian church was set up in under the veneration of the god Bacchus or Dionysus. All right. This is why, when you look at this so-called black Christian church, they're always jumping up and down and going wild and crazy up in there. That goes back to the orgiastic worship of the god Bacchus. OK, which literally means the son of Cush. That's talking about Nimrod. But that's neither here nor there. As Skip has already pointed out, a lot of these people, they get so caught up in the internet world, in the social media world, that they really have a hard time differentiating between the two and what's really relevant and what's important as opposed to what isn't.
No. And he did make it very clear. I applaud what you stood up for. But his biggest message was, until you speak for yourself and demand what you want to do in life, it's totally on you.
Yeah, he sent out that dart because he knows that Ness Nitty is the one who's pulling his strings. How does Ray Lewis know that? Most likely Jim Brown has told him. Right? I mean, as well as his own perceptions. I mean, Ray Lewis is, he's been around the world enough to know when a dude is getting his strings pulled. But I've been noting that from the start, that Ness Nitty is his handler. All right? And who knows? Jim Brown may be an MK handler himself. He may have told Ray Lewis, look, see if you can get Colin a job or an interview at with the Baltimore Ravens. And keep in mind, too, the connection between Jim Brown and the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens were, at one time, the original Cleveland Browns. All right? So this is why Ray Lewis and Jim Brown have such a close connection, as well as those two franchises. But, once again, when you're talking about the Boule, you're talking about different factions at war with each other.
The point is, and we kept saying, because I kept hearing this from NFL people, from Fritz Pollard Alliance people, everybody in the NFL was waiting for Colin to speak up and speak out about what he's doing right now. Where is his head? Where is his heart? And I think that's fair.
I think it's very fair also. You have a lot of Kaepernick's constituency, a lot of his followers, a lot of his acolytes who say, oh, well, why does Kaepernick have to speak? Does any other quarterback looking for a job have to speak? Well, once again, when you set a precedent that you're going to lead some type of movement, you're no longer going to be subjected to the same rules of engagement as other people. People are going to look at you differently. They are going to hold you to different standards of propriety or conduct. It just is what it is. It's like the statement that Michael Vick made about Colin Kaepernick's hair. Everybody got upset. They said, well, there's plenty of players with afros and long hair. Right, but none of those other players have grown their hair out in accord with an ideological change or a new belief. So, of course, they're going to associate his hair with his beliefs. Right? The scriptures tell you, smite the shepherd and the sheep shall be scattered. Kaepernick is looked at as the leader of this little movement in the NFL. Now, as we know, the movement at one time was going on across many other sports leagues, or they were trying to get it to carry over, but it didn't.
Even though I know you got some blowback from Colin's side of it, that, hey, I don't want to have to beg for a job. These other backups didn't have to beg for a job. No, but they didn't become the face and the voice of an incredibly crucial movement that will go down in history in this country.
No, this is going to be a blip on the radar screen. It's pretty much going to go down as another psyop, which is what it is. It's not to say that it's not going to have some type of effect, as I've already stated. I believe that Kaepernick is an asset. They really want to totally demonize the police force in America because they want to bring in a global police force. Quiet is kept. Okay.
That put him on the cover of Time magazine, that will make him the face of something forever and ever, that we will always remember, that had national lasting impact.
Well, it will only have national lasting impact if some type of law or provision gets changed. Okay? Some type of law, provision, rule gets changed, and they call it the Kaepernick rule or the Kaepernick law, which I doubt is going to happen, but you never know. You never know. Either way, the true motive is going to be to bring in some type of global police force.
Correct. Okay, that's a big thing, and now it's time to return to your quote-unquote day job, what you do for a living, and are you ready to go back? So Ray wanted to know that because Ray's a football man at heart, and he was speaking almost the way an owner would speak. I need you to speak to me. Ray, John Wooten, who runs the Fritz Pollard Alliance, Jim Brown, they all wanted Colin to leave his little insulated circle of advisors and come speak to them. Look in their eyes, let them look in your eyes, let them look into your heart. What's going on right now?
Yeah, they want to know who it is that's puppeting him. That's what they want to know. They want to know if they could take over the reins as puppeteers. This is what Kaepernick is so afraid of. Kaepernick is worried that they're just using him as an opportunity to advance their own station as sociological engineers, as people who can get the credit for a societal change that his Svengalis want to get credit for. So really right now, Kaepernick is just all over the place. He's a pawn. He's scared to come out of hiding. You saw the breakdown that Michael Bennett had. A lot of these guys, man, they don't know what to do right now with themselves. They're just assets, and they just want the voices in their head to go away.
Are you ready to go back? Go ahead. I know this gets offensive to some people, but it's just this is their view.
No, I'm just saying. So should he pay for his way to see that team? Because I believe the Seahawks, they brought him in.
They did.
I feel very comfortable saying that he talked to Pete Carroll and John Snyder, the general manager.
I think at length he did.
Now,
he did not work out for them because he was ready to, and they didn't want him to.
I don't know this for certain, but I feel comfortable saying that I believe he talked to Dick Cass, Ozzie Newsome, and John Harbaugh in the Ravens organization. Normally.
Did he on the phone? Because
yes.
Ray was acting like that they needed him to come in and look in their eyes. I don't know.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. Okay, if you call me and says, okay, I'm talking to you, you get in touch with my agent, we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we leave it? Or, okay, we bring you in, we want to talk to you face to face, we want to give you a physical, whatever that the case may be. But is he supposed to say, guys, can you bring me in so I can sit down and talk to you?
They wanted him to. I just know that, and I reported here on the show, John Wooten, again, the head of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, who oversees the Rooney Rule.
Right.
Another Boule man, John Wooten. Look, guys, this is not as circuitous or as convoluted as they're trying to make it out to be. It's very simple. they don't really know who's controlling Kaepernick. When I say they, I'm talking about the Jim Brown portion of the boule. They want to regain control over Kaepernick so that they can, so that they feel like they have a more of a mastery over what's going on. They have a feeling that a societal change is on the way and they're not going to be associated with it. Remember, the job of the boule is to report any and all events affecting the so-called black community to the Caucasian elite. Right now, Kaepernick is being puppeted by the, I'm trying to think of the right term to use right now, really the new black avant-garde for the Caucasian elite, that being the Black Lesbian Association known as Black Lives Matter, in concert with his woman, Ness Nitty. All right? That's the hierarchy on the Kaepernick side. And we all know that leads to people like George Soros and other liberal Caucasian Jew billionaires. They're using him. Okay? So right now, these are competing forces. Point being, this shit is not going to end well for Kaepernick. All right? Just stay tuned. I promise you, it's not going to end well for him, allegedly. All right?
They wanted to do what they did in 67, when they conducted a summit for Muhammad Ali, where they brought in the big...
You see how they keep trotting out this bullshit narrative? Now, once again, Bob Arum was on their show and explained what the so-called summit was really about. But it just goes to show you how deep people get into narrative and how brainwashed they get. They're still trying to regurgitate this shit like it was some heroic show of force by black athletes against a white power structure. And Bob Arum literally was on their show telling them what it was actually about. But they're still trying to push this bullshit.
The biggest athletes in several sports, Bill Russell,
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
and Jim Brown, obviously, and they stood literally behind Muhammad Ali in a media section.
Right.
So they wanted to do that for Colin until Django Unchained happened. But the point is, back to Ray, so he's making this video, and here's the flashpoint. And I quote from the video, Ray Lewis said, people need... The people, meaning people on Twitter, just out in the street, need to stop encouraging you, Colin, to be caught up in some of this nonsense. And I asked Ray about it the next day on the show. I said, is that the right word to characterize all of Colin's protesting as nonsense?
Right.
That's pretty offensive, man.
Very.
Oh, well, it's offensive to the pro-black mafia. And, it's understandable why it would be offensive to them. They're looking for attention. Colin's gesture is a form of high-level attention gathering. All right? Ray Lewis is somebody who follows the Jim Brown approach of economic reform for the so-called black community. Where they go off is that they're not starting first with culture. But that's neither here nor there. That's going to happen in due time once the society continues on its downward spiral. But it is what it is.
That's just undercutting the whole movement, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that was the flashpoint, but he went on to say, the battles you've been fighting, brother, people way before us have been fighting for many, many years. Mm-hmm. That didn't hit me the right way.
Who gives a fuck how it hits you? Who are you? All right, you're just another so-called agent of chaos, Discordian, as you yourself have described yourself as a communist. You stated yourself that the NFL owners call you a communist. And I've already told you, brothers, that when you hear that term socialist or communist, really all that is another way of saying a Luciferian, right? / globalist, a person who wants to cause confusion to bring in their own idea of what order is. All right. Skip Bayless somehow thinks that somebody's supposed to care about how it hits him. Why should Ray Lewis care about how his views of race hit you?
That's just saying, give it up. Come on, give it up.
No, what he's saying is that those gestures don't really amount to anything. That's why they were doing them 50 years ago. All right? They were doing them 50 years ago when when John Carlos and the other brother Tommy, one of you brothers can remind me of what his last name was. When they held up the Black Power fist, which the Black Power fist is really the fist for communism. When they held it up at the instruction of Harry Edwards, who was their handler back then. Okay? The reason why you still got to do that shit 50 years later is because it didn't work back then and it won't work now.
we're not going to win this because of what you do.
Right.
So just go back to playing football. And then Ray goes on to, the football field is our sanctuary.
Well, see, Ray Lewis looks at football like a religion. That's why it's so easy for him to get pawned out. Like I said, he's nothing but a pawn. He's a very low-level thinker. All right? That's why Jim Brown sends him out to run his errands.
If you do nothing else, young man, get back on the football field and let your play speak for yourself. And what you do off the field, said Ray Lewis in the video, don't let too many people know because they're going to judge you anyway, no matter what you do. So Ray was basically saying, quit protesting, quit speaking out, quit speaking up, get back on the football field.
See, Ray Lewis thinks that he could speak to Kaepernick like how he speaks to them little high school boys that he goes and has these seminars with. Kaepernick doesn't care about Ray Lewis and his opinions that Ray Lewis tries to justify biblically. Colin Kaepernick, I guarantee you, does not believe in the Bible. All right? Colin Kaepernick is a socialist/communist. All right? I guarantee you that. He doesn't care about Ray Lewis and his biblical spiel. Okay? Colin Kaepernick is fully liberaled out. He's pro homosexual, pro lesbian, pro feminist. All that is underneath the umbrella of what he represents.
Well, I must admit, I found that offensive. Mm-hmm. Just me, but I found it offensive. And guess who really found it offensive? Nessa.
Correct.
And you know what? I don't blame her.
You see? Now notice, Skip Bayless is taking the same tact as Max Kellerman. Why is that? As I've already stated, they are both liberal Caucasian agents of chaos. All right? As you brothers stay on this channel and you pay very close attention, you're going to see that there is a method to the madness that is utilized by the liberal Caucasian. As I stated a long time ago, the liberal black follows the liberal white in lockstep. Okay? The liberal white rarely likes to come out of the shadows, but they will if they feel like they need to set things back in proper order. This issue between Ray Lewis and Ness Nitty has made them come out of the shadows with their ideological beliefs because they're saying, you know what, we got to get Ray out of the way because right now it's affecting Ness Nitty and her control over Kaepernick. So let me say this too. A lot of these high-level television personalities, they know that Kaepernick is an asset. They just come on TV every day and talk shit and act like they don't know what's going on. A lot of them know about, the MK Ultra and the Monarch children and all those other things. They know about it, but they like to play a game, right?
I don't.
You can find an offensive, Skip, but you don't have to go to.
Okay, I got it. But can you understand her sentiment on it? Can you understand how it would move her to want?
No, sir. No. That's not her place to be moved. It's her place to stay in her place. But as his handler, she has to come out and say things that he won't say. Once again, that's why Kaepernick only speaks in memes. He does not have his own brain. Okay? He does not have his own brain. A lot of people is not going to, what I just said is not going to hit them very, very well. At least not until a lot of other factoids are brought to light. But y'all going to find out.
Want to post what she, now again, you can't do it because you are going to blow up a bridge for your significant.
Correct.
And that's what she did. Because John Wooten, the head of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, called me the next morning to say, did you see what she posted? And John's quote to me was, I'm out. And I said this here on the show. I'm out of any kind of summit that they were going to pull off. Right. And he knew at that point that it was close to getting Colin signed in Baltimore.
Well, please keep in mind, John Wooten is a former football player himself. He was a former offensive lineman for the Cleveland Browns who used to block for Jim Brown. So you see how all these dots connect? Why did he say I'm out? Because he knew that Ray Lewis was handling a job that Jim Brown, and most likely him as well, dispatched Ray Lewis to handle as a proxy party. All right? Ray Lewis's job was to bring Colin Kaepernick in. You know, you watch those movies where the secret agent, his job is to find the rogue agent and bring him back in, like the Jason Bourne series. They got to bring Jason Bourne back into the office to debrief him and reprogram him. That's what's going on. That's what's going on with Kaepernick, man. They trying to bring him in and find out exactly who his handler is so that they can try to get control back over him.
More because John worked in Baltimore with and for Ozzie.
Yeah.
So he knew it was close, and he knew that blew it all up. But it all started because Ray posted this video in response to how people were coming down on him on Twitter.
Can I ask you a question, Skip? Now, you said Jim Brown and possibly Ray was going to be at the summit.
Yes.
These are two men that said Colin Kaepernick need to either choose football or activism.
Yep.
So how is that going to play in Colin's corner?
It wasn't going to play at all. That's why Kaepernick didn't go in. All right? Once again, this whole thing is a shit show. But Kaepernick, or at least his handlers, are smart enough to understand what the Jim Brown side is trying to do, or the Ray Lewis side is trying to do. They're trying to create a sentiment where we don't know what Colin is doing. We're trying to get Colin a job, but Colin don't want to talk to us. You know why he don't want to talk to y'all. Because he knows that y'all are on that. Y'all are on the, y'all are working both sides. Y'all are double agents. But Colin doesn't know which way is up right now.
It's just their point of view, but it's an NFL point of view.
And I want you to know these very same people that saying Colin Kaepernick should stick to football. I'm glad J.J. Watt just didn't stick to football, and he took it upon himself.
I got it, but here's the...
Right, even Skip knows that's a bullshit analogy. That's a bullshit comparison. Like, give me a break.
Here's the difference. That came and that, thank you God, went. The hurricane left, and so he did what he did, and now it's time for him to play football. And I'm sure from this point on, JJ will mostly be all about football. But I get what you're meaning. This is a franchise quarterback that you're talking about. And there's something sacred about the position in the NFL where they want that guy to be as obsessed as Tom Brady is obsessed with playing quarterback.
Absolutely, because he represents the organization. He's the coach on the field. All right, that's why you cannot compare Colin Kaepernick to Brent Grimes and J.J. Watt. It's asinine.
Well, we know this to be true. All quarterbacks are not obsessed like Tom Brady and Peyton and Drew Brees.
They're not.
I think there's enough room in the thing is for coaching is to get the best, to maximize each individual player based on what they do.
Okay, here's my bottom line fear. What Ray said last night, made public on Showtime, I think it's going to slam the door on Colin Kaepernick in the National Football League, at least for this year. I just fear it is because...
No, I think that he'll be back. This is all theater and narrative. What's his name? Goodell is already on record as saying that Colin Kaepernick will play again. So at some point, most likely later on in the season, you'll see Kaepernick pop up, maybe even for a playoff contending team.
Now NFL owners are going to say, Ray said that? Ray did that? Wow.
You believe it's going to slam the door this year and it's going to open back up next year?
Oh, I don't know about next year. I'm just saying sometimes things change when you least expect it, but I think it could, slam the door, period.
Well, we know he's not signed because of the protests, but that tweet definitely burned whatever tiny bridge was being created there.
And it should have burned it. All right? It should have burned it. Once again, I don't think that the Kaepernick faction truly cares if he gets a job in the NFL or not. He's very lucrative as a figurehead for their super liberal movement, as a branch of the Black Lives Matter super liberal pro-black movement, where they want to advance all of these liberal / communist ideologies, really just as representatives of the liberal Caucasian elite, people like George Soros, etc. So, I mean, that's really all that's going on. They're trying to use sports as a vehicle for societal change, for societal engineering. This guy Kaepernick is a pawn and an asset, period. But anyway, we're going to continue on with this conversation. That NFL show talking about Colin Kaepernick's woman and her antics. You were supposed to call up Ray and do your due diligence and investigate, brother.
I have no reason to not believe that Ray was behind the scenes trying to help Cap. But the fact of the matter is that this came out and that was a non-starter. What it did, it provided cover for the Ravens. Because they say, see, now we were going to be willing to accept the blowback that was going to come with this anthem protest. But this.
No, sir. The Ravens don't need any cover. All right? I know that you guys are trying to keep this narrative going that teams are looking for excuses to not sign Kaepernick. Nobody needs an excuse to not sign Colin Kaepernick. They just don't have to sign him. All right? A lot of these pro-blacks and liberal blacks, they live in their own world where supposedly everybody has to make up these extravagant reasons why they don't want to help out a protester. They don't have to do shit. They really don't. All they have to say is Colin Kaepernick is not a fit for our team. That's if they even addressed it at all. So, yes, when you have an idiot with an idiotic so-called girlfriend making those type of outlandish type of tweets or whatever you want to call them, gestures, of course you have to consider that as being a possible cancer in your locker room.
With the final straw. Now remember, Skip. Now you remember who was that? Wes Welker wife. What she said about rape after they lost the AFC Championship game. They didn't waive Wes Welker.
No.
You remember what Giselle?
Was Wes Welker leading a protest that they believe was divisive to the NFL audience, to the NFL constituency? You can bring up all the wives and all their tweets that you want, Shannon. The only time that it would be valid is if those players were also leading a protest.
Giselle said when they lost to the Giants, they didn't cut Tom Brady. Nobody castigated him. Say, oh, she's speaking for Tom. Wes' wife is speaking for Wes. But you see what they did there? Because I'm a firm believer in this. If you respect or you appreciate someone's cause, you will appreciate and respect the person that represents that cause.
Well, they can come back and say if you respect the flag, then we'll respect your protest. Right? Respect is a two-way street. Since you're talking about respect, and since their respect is so essential for you, once again, the real issue is that these so-called pro-blacks, they're like dogs chasing their own tail. They keep trying to get the attention of the elite Caucasians by any means necessary, but they want to do it their way. They don't want to be told that there's a way to get somebody's attention since you want it so bad. No, they don't have to respect your protest if you don't respect them. I don't get involved on either side because it's all a big shit show. But no, sir, if you ask a woman out on a date, she does not have to say yes because you think that you asked her the right way. If she don't like you, she don't like you.
But if you don't think the call is worthy, you definitely will disagree and not think the person that's supporting that call is worthy. Hence, you get J.J. Watt and you get Colin Kaepernick. Now, no one has ever told J.J. Watt he gave $100,000 of his money. He's already up to $20 million. Nobody said, J.J., stick to your day job, stick to sports.
Did J.J. Watt say that I'm going to get on one knee every time the national anthem is played because I don't think people give enough money to disasters? Did he do that, Shannon? Did J.J. Watt say, I'm going to sit on the bench while the national anthem is playing because I don't think that people in America do a good enough job sending in money when hurricanes hit Houston? Did he do that, Shannon? Come on, man. Shannon sounds like a dumb, smart nigga. He sounds like one of these guys who thinks that they're making a point, but they're really not.
Because everybody thinks what he's doing is commendable, and it is. Nobody said J.J. Watt had a selfish agenda. Not one person. But Colin Kaepernick took $1 million out of his own pocket. Nobody said got no $20 million in donations. But it just goes to show you, Skip. I don't see now, Skip. I thought, and you and I have talked about this not only in the air but in private, that if somebody were to get injured or injury happens, they're going to sign Colin. I'm beginning to seriously doubt that. My meter is starting to go, it's 100 over here, and I was at 50, I was at like 85, 90. I'm almost at always 100%, Skip.
Okay, well, what's new? A so-called pro-black didn't see the end game, didn't see what was going to come at the end. What's new? Now you're starting to realize that he has alienated himself out of the NFL. I believe that Colin Kaepernick will be given another job eventually, just to keep the narrative going. But it's just funny to me that now he's saying, oh, well, Skip, now I'm starting to think he's not going to get another job. No shit. Because the idiots like you on TV trying to help him and trying to corroborate a movement that clearly, to the major NFL constituency, that being conservative Caucasians, is divisive. They are offended. That's just how it goes, dude. I mean, I don't understand why you guys can't figure that shit out.
That is not going to happen because I see Buffalo, they signed Joe Webb. Joe Webb is a better quarterback than Colin Kaepernick.
No, he's just less of a headache.
The Indianapolis Colts signed Jacoby Brissett.
They traded for him.
Traded for him. Yeah. But he's a better quarterback.
That's when I knew.
Well, he might be better than Colin Kaepernick. I don't know how good Jacoby Brissett is. But, once again, it's like, there's plenty of gorgeous women out here who don't have a man. And there's plenty of women who you might not find that attractive, who might be overweight, who have a man, who have a husband, who have children. And everybody's happy. You know why? Because they're not making waves. Right? They're not a headache. Now, when it comes to people like Colin Kaepernick, there's plenty of ways to get your point across if you're really concerned about getting a job without alienating the people who are going to provide your job for you. I have no problem with Colin Kaepernick's protest as long as he's willing to deal with the consequences, as long as his fan base is willing to deal with the consequences. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. All right? When you watch revolutionary movies, how many revolutionary movies end with the revolutionary going off and living happily ever after? All right? It usually ends with them being killed. All right? Please keep that in mind.
Because I thought that was another last stop for Colin. Nope. Jacoby Brissett.
And the thing that...
They're starting Scott Tolzien in place of Andrew Luck. Go ahead.
Skip, it's just hard for me to believe in that they'll find every excuse why Colin, he had a championship caliber team. See, look at his defense. Skip, Peyton Manning was not the quarterback that we knew and loved. He didn't have as good a Super Bowl as Colin Kaepernick did in a loss, then Peyton won. But no one says, that defense drug Peyton Manning home. But when you like someone, you respect what they're doing, they don't respect Colin Kaepernick. They deem his cause unworthy. You know why, Skip?
You know why they deem his cause unworthy, Shannon? Because there's no realistic end game. There's no such thing as equality. If Colin Kaepernick came out and said, you know what? We've never been treated well by this police force. We need to form our own police force. At least that would be an end game, right? Why is it that he won't do that? Because deep down, he cannot live without the Caucasian. Deep down, the pro-blacks, they don't feel like they can live without the Caucasian. So they must therefore keep harassing the Caucasian to improve his police force because they don't want to have their own police force. You know why? Because to have your own police force, you got to have a culture. All right? Our people don't want to face those facts. They don't want to do the grunt work.
A flood. See, Jerry Jones and Mr. Kraft or these wealthy billionaires say, you know what? That's an act of God. That could have happened to me. A hurricane, a flood, a wildfire. That could literally happen to me. What is the likelihood that Mr. Kraft or any billionaire is ever going to be brutalized by the police? See, Skip, you can empathize with that because you know there's a probability that a flood, a wildfire, hurricane can affect you just like it did the people of Houston. But see, when blacks, they said, okay, what led to the encounter? Why would you have an encounter? Why would you have to encounter the police if you weren't doing anything wrong? They automatically assume you've done something wrong for the police to encounter you.
Yes, and you automatically assume that you've done something wrong and have been born a black man. That's why you're always begging the elite whites to empathize with you. You know why you always want elite Caucasians to empathize with you, Shannon? Because deep down, underneath all that pro-black bluster, you really just want them to accept you so that you can feel validated by them. You don't feel self-validated, bro. You're trying to front like you do, but you really don't. That's why you go home to the Caucasian woman. You don't go home to her because you guys have something in common. You go home to her because you feel like, wow, I got me a nice Caucasian woman. I feel better about myself now.
One is an act of God. The other is your own. The other is your own fault. Skip, it's hard for me to say. I have no reason to doubt Ray Lewis was not behind the scenes because I know he has the owner Steve Bishotti's ear.
Well, why didn't you call him to find out, bro? You're supposed to be a co-anchor on a major sports debate show. Ray Lewis is supposed to be your little brother. Look at how Joy Taylor's looking at Shannon. She's looking at him like, how come you didn't call him? I bet you that's what's going on in that big forehead having ass of hers. It's like, how come you didn't call him? You're supposed to call Ray Lewis. That's supposed to be your little brother, right? Or is Colin Kaepernick your new little brother? As a matter of fact, would you be vouching for Colin Kaepernick so much if he wasn't leading this protest? Would you be wondering why these other teams are not signing him if he was not the figurehead of this protest? Or would you just be looking at his stats for the last few years and how they've slowly degenerated? You know, nobody's saying, wow, how come Josh Freeman isn't in the NFL anymore? He's better than most of these quarterbacks. Nobody's saying that.
Yeah, I know that. I don't want to speculate because I haven't talked to it.
You've been speculating. You've been speculating the whole segment.
And I wish I should have called it and got,
Oh, we have an admission.
The intricacies of what was going on. But Skip, it's just hard for me to believe that this is the only reason that you're not signing Colin Kaepernick because of the tweet.
Yeah, you condemn the tweet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't, Skip, if somebody disagrees with you, you can't go to the lowest common denominator to try to and because this is unacceptable. Okay, he didn't agree. He told Cap, choose football or social activism. Choose one or the other. Okay, you didn't like what he said. Okay. You think everybody liked what Dr. King did? You think everybody liked whatever? Even when you're doing something good, Skip, you will have naysayers, but you can't get so upset that you would do something like this because people will assume, some will assume, oh, this came from Cap. Cap did that.
Well, I don't assume that it came from him because I already know the hierarchy. I already know that she is his controller. But I do believe that he co-signed it. I do believe that Colin Kaepernick right now does not know who to trust. I do believe that he's very comfortable hiding behind social media. And I do believe that Michael Bennett is associated and affiliated with the same liberal pro-black organizations that he is. That's why Kaepernick was so quick to align himself with, quote unquote, his brother Michael Bennett. Because he and Michael Bennett are both assets of the same force behind the scenes.
Bottom line to everything you just said, I'm going to amplify.